So I attended a graduation ceremony recently, and let's just say that the crowd, the families that came out to cheer on the graduates were very enthusiastic, and it was very amusing to me that I was sitting next to someone who at some point started to get a little bit annoyed with how loud the crowd was. And it got me thinking about education and the whole idea about graduating students, whether they're high school students or they are finishing up college or uni. I'm thinking back to that and saying, okay, this is education, right? A glass of water, and depending upon how you view education, we can look at this and say, okay, this is education, and education is a half empty glass, or education is a half full glass. So if we're looking at education as a half empty glass, then we're focusing on all the stats, okay? For example, in the US, there is a dropout rate of between 25 to 30%. And specifically, that's about 7,000 students per day who are dropping out of high school, right? I don't have stats for the UK, but when I read up on it, it's the information is saying that the dropout rate in the UK among high school age students is one of the worst rates in the developed world. Okay, looking at education half empty, there are less black youth who are going on to college or uni, and in turn there are less youth, especially youth of color, who are financially independent by the time they reach in their mid-20s, right? So that's looking at education through that half empty glass. But we're going to flip that, because I think that there's so much focus on what's not going right. So if we're looking at education as a half full glass of water, then if there are 25 to 30% of youth who are dropping out of high school, then let's talk about the 70% of youth that are not dropping out. The youth that are being raised in the same kind of conditions, living in the same time frame, experiencing some of the same things that the other youths are, but who are making decisions to stay in school and to focus on their education. That's about 70% of youth, right? And if we have less black youth attending college, well, okay, less based upon a certain percentage, but then there are some black youth who are going on to college and going on to uni. Let's focus on them for a change, right? And maybe for those who don't go immediately on to uni or use that as a path, what about the ones who go into their technical careers, or choose to bypass all of that and just develop their talents and create their own businesses? Let's focus on them for a change, because they make up this half full glass, right? Let's focus attention on those that do become financially independent in their mid-20s. And for those that are not, maybe real life will kick in and they may develop their independence a short while after. So we're back at this graduation, and we're thinking in a mindset where the educational glass is half full. And the families reflect that, because the graduation ceremony is all about the family. It's about the family that has provided support to that student. It's about the standards that that family has set to allow the student to get to that point. And it's about the family that has helped the student and will continue helping that student towards their own independence. For them, the glass is half full because they have played a role in bringing this person to the state of graduation. So if you're a parent, if you are a family member, if you've played a part in terms of getting a student to the point of graduation, whether it's from high school or college or university, then that's something for you to be proud of. Give yourself a round of applause. Give yourself a pat on the shoulder. So next time you attend a graduation ceremony, regardless of how enthusiastic the crowd may be, don't get annoyed. Just look at it in terms of education. Consider the enthusiasm that you hear from the families, from the crowd. Is really an enthusiasm because, you know, they're working against the challenges of an increasing dropout rate, the challenges of education being defunded, the challenges that will face, let's say, a high school graduate transitioning on to college or uni and being able to complete that, and the challenge of preparing a young person to develop from a state of dependence to independence, especially through education. So in hindsight, I want to say that when it comes to education, that we can keep looking at all the stats and look at it through a half-empty glass, or we can focus on education as being half full, because I think that the 70% of youth that are not dropping out from high school or college or uni, we have to acknowledge and recognize those students. But what do you think? Are you a parent or a family member who has or is playing a role in terms of the educational development of a student? Do you think that there's too much emphasis on looking at education as a half-empty glass? I think that there is, and I think that we need to shift our focus on education as a half-full glass. I understand that the conditions in education are not where they could and should be, but we can't forget that even among the dismal statistics, that there are a large number of students who are focusing on their education, who are not dropping out of school, who are transitioning from the high school level to the college and uni level, despite the same types of challenges that others who drop out have, and that we should acknowledge them, you know, and we should also acknowledge the families behind them that get them to that point. What do you think? That is my hindsight, and I thank you for sharing your time with me. I hope that my hindsight has and will inspire you, and that you will find your own way to blossom.